Okay, today I'm looking at this Galaxy. It's an AM only amateur radio, which is kind of strange, but that's what we're looking at. Although in this configuration it's 40 up and 40 down, so it's really no big secret what it was made for. Similar to the DX86V, although with modifications and stuff you can really unlock that one, and probably can do the same with this one, but when it only gives you AM, it really limits what you could probably do with it. So I don't mind the look of this, other than the fact that you have this being blue and this being blue. I wish they would have made it all one color scheme. It's kind of strange why they do certain things. I think if they would have asked users of radios, they would have said, no, we don't want two different colors, but unfortunately a lot of times companies do things without asking, or they just use parts they had left over or something. But anyways, here's our spectrum analyzer. We're looking at about 40 dBm, which is about here what we're looking at. So this is a 100 megahertz span of this radio, and we'll hit our peak button. You can just kind of see what we're looking at here. Some of this stuff can be adjusted out. Now it's not really critical. I mean, it's like 60 dBm down. This is the second, which is about 53 down. This is a really high one here though for an in-between. It's about 47 down. You can go into the tuning circuit. If I was to span in, there's probably quite a bit more here. Let's just kind of take a quick peek at that and see. I'll be right back to show that. Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's not terrible or anything, but you can tune those down, these little spikes here, but they're well below the 0 dBm. They're actually right around like minus in the teens, so they're not horrible considering, you know. This radio's power is dropping slightly as we stay keyed up, so it's kind of fluctuating a little bit. It's heating up and stuff, so it's a little inconsistent at times, but when we're talking very small amounts, you know. It drops and then kind of picks back up, so it's kind of a weird thing, but you know, you can tune those out. So and what happens when you do that is you lose power on the final output. So, you know, somebody would say, well, I want my radio peaked and tuned and all that, and I want the most power. Well, that's, you know, the right way to do it's not going to do that for you. So the wrong way to do it's just to turn it all up and make those spikes even higher, because then the power comes up, because the meter doesn't understand the power in relation to what frequency you're on and all that. So let's see what this thing's doing actually. This is with the RF power up all the way. It's picking up that pop from the mic, from the speaker. These radios have that speaker pop, and it's picking that up as sound. 1 2 3 1 2 3, check check check, 1 2 1 2. So it's about a 40 watt radio, 10 watts and 40. 1 2 3 1 2 3, check check check, hello. Let me set this up in my preferred setting, so that way we're centered right on channel 20 with 2 channel spacing. 1 2 3, hello, check check, hello. It doesn't look too bad. Hello radio, 1 2 3 1 2 3, check check check, hello. Doesn't look too bad on the high power side. Let's see about the low power. I think this is, no, that's mic gain. This is RF power. Well, we'll see. Just the RF, maybe that was RF gain. RF power is here. Looks like a really low carrier. Oh wow. Hello, yeah, that's gonna light up some stuff there. Hello. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, check check check, hello. 1 2 3. This is in a fast setup here on the scope. 1 2 3. You can see the box cars. 1 2 3 4 5, hello. So yeah, I can imagine when I put the test tone in what it's going to look like. So let's do that. Alright, so here's high power with the test tone. It's really bad, especially when you got power, you know, coming up over the 0 dBm line slightly. That's not good either. It's just wasted. You know, it's definitely a meter peak and tune is all it is. So that's the high power. Here's the low power. Yeah, that gets really bad. So it's sending my LP100 into like worrisome mode. So yeah, that's just horrible. Okay, this is the modulation analyzer, the spectrum analyzer, and it's only showing about 91% modulation, which is kind of funny. You know, you'd like to see about 95. This is on the high power setting again, so you know that's telling you that you are not getting the maximum modulation out of the radio, although you're getting a ton and ton of distortion, which isn't helping you at all. And that's what people don't understand, because they only base things off power meters, and that's a shame in the hobby, but that's just the way it is. And then on the low end, it's at 100%, which is well over modulated. And then this is just going crazy. You can see what it's doing to my reactance and everything. It's just all over the place. That's distortion, and that's what it's doing. It's literally destroying your signal. And imagine if you put this into a linear amplifier. You are just asking for nightmares. This is why I've pretty much given up on like these kind of chassis and stuff, because I don't know, for the sake of whatever it is, I've kind of had it with that part of the hobby, and just the day-to-day, just I want the max power, the max everything. I just want it all. And then all the amplifiers that are ran with stuff that's set up like this, and it's just becomes just total lack of anything that I would ever, even for myself, even like if someone gave this to me in the shape that it's in, I wouldn't want it. I'd say no, I'm not interested, you know, you can keep it or whatever. And I'm not knocking, you know, the radio. I'm hoping I can fix it up and make it somewhat respectable here, but the same thing could be said for one of these ginormous amplifiers, which these guys are saying that everybody should run, or they'd make it sound like you should just want one and need one. And if somebody came over here and said, here's a, and I don't know what it, here's an 8-pill C box or 12-pill C box, I'd say, no, I don't want it. Well, I'll just give it to you. No, I don't want it. And that might blow some people's minds, but no, I don't want it. I'll never use it. There's no physical or any way that I would ever want to run that on anything that I do here. So maybe I'm a whole lot different than what the hobby is, but that's just me, and I look at things from a different perspective and stuff. So, you know, I'm not knocking anybody for what they're doing out there, but at the same time, there's just a lot of stuff that I don't do or really care to even concern myself with, and that's pretty much why I've kind of not really worried so much about like this kind of radio anymore and stuff, because a lot of that goes along with these, unfortunately. You know, and then you get into people hot rodding them, and I mean, I don't know what this one has, but I'm assuming it's just cranked wide open inside. Maybe the limiter's cut out of it, I'm not really sure, but you know, it's just a matter of lack of understanding and believing what a power meter shows versus having any real fundamental testing. Because anybody could test this like I just did and say there's something not right there, and the LP100A is definitely telling you something's right there when it's setting off the alarm on it. That's a dead giveaway that, you know, your radio is not working the way it should, because it's totally messing up everything. And that's going into a 50 ohm load. If you put that into an antenna, the antenna is definitely not going to know what to do with that signal. and either a lot of that stuff is coming back at your equipment, or the antenna is going to radiate it out as RFI, which is going to interfere with everything around you. And again, like I said, if you put an amplifier behind this, you know, the way it sits, and some of these amplifiers, the way they're made, it's just an absolute interference, full on all the time. And that's why when you go on the CB band and you see, you know, certain areas of the band, predominantly in the AM portion, you know, you can see when it's really hot and heavy, you can see sometimes people are talking on a low channel and you can hear them up on in the 20s or in the 30s in channels, and that's really bad, and that happens all the time. So I'm not trying to push people in a different direction or anything like that. I'm just kind of voicing what I think, and you know, hopefully I can do something to make this a little more respectable. I do have a soft spot for these kind of how they look and stuff, because it reminds me of the old days, and I ran everything back then. You know, I just ran what was popular, and Galaxy was like the #1 most popular brand in my local area. It was Galaxy. And then the second most popular would be like RCI Ranger. And when the black bases started coming out, those were the most popular for guys to have it in the house and stuff. And the guy that used to set my radios up and stuff was the same way. Everything was full on, you know, and I didn't know back then. I didn't know what he was doing or anything, and I had no clue, and I just trusted what he said that was the best thing for the radio. And now, knowing what I know now, I could have kicked myself in the butt, because no wonder why I was causing so much interference. No wonder why when I had one of my good friends that lived 2 blocks to the north of my house growing up would call me at night and say, "Hey, you on your CB?" I said, "Yeah, why?" "Well, I can hear you coming through my speakers while I'm playing Sega Genesis or something." And that's 2 blocks away. And that was running an Antron 99 antenna. And probably back then I was running like a Palomar 300A, or like I think I used to run a Boomer 35 amp power supply, one of those big black bass amps that had the built-in power supply or something. I don't know what I was running, but it was either that one or the Palomar 300A. But that just shows you, you know, if you're coming through somebody's TV that's 2 blocks away, just think what you're doing or still are doing. And I know things have changed, the technology's changed, and we have digital broadcasting now and stuff like that, but there's still ways to interfere with stuff. And not only that, but you're just ripping apart the band, which you love. I mean, you love CB and stuff, but apparently people just don't have respect for other operators, and it's just an absolute shame, but it is what it is. We'll get this opened up and take a look inside and see what I can do. Here's our Galaxy. So the funny thing is, this radio produces its own tone just by plugging in my generator. I'm not even sending a signal in, and it's producing about 60% modulation right now, which I find very strange also. But here's when I send the real tone. So this is tamed down some. So he wanted about a 1/2 watt carrier, so that's what I gave him. There's about 95%. So it's a little cleaner now. You can see as we move into the next channels, it's obviously well below the 0 dBm, although on this side it's a little higher. The radio is obviously off frequency some, which is really normal for these, but it's not really something I don't think the AM crowd's really too concerned about. But it stabilizes for a minute, and then it just kind of like, almost like it self-oscillates, which is really weird. You can see what it looks like on the spectrum analyzer. But I mean, the percentage of modulation is just insane out of this thing. So but it, you know, it doesn't really look the best, but at least it looks somewhat okay, and it looks okay here. But that's where I would recommend leaving it. So if I turn that RF power up, it still self-oscillates, which is, I don't know why it's doing that, but so I have to put a normal mic in. And so the high power, I have them set to about 8 watts or so. Since there's only one AMC in this radio, I'm not too sure how the high power is going to look, minus the self-oscillation doesn't help, but yeah, the high power still looks horrible. So that's the thing, you know, it's definitely a trade-off here. So let's take a look at the high power and see what can be done. Basically nothing. I think this radio's had some type of mod or something done to it, and it's really a bad mod. I don't really know, because the limiter works on low power, but this high power just is horrible and just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, there's the carrier. So yeah, even at like just cracking the mic gain, it's full on, and your VR doesn't do anything at high power. Let's see at low power. Yeah, at low power it works. You can see how I've turned it down. So that's basically off on the VR for the AMC, and then on high power it's still cranking out, but it just looks horrible. If you turn it up, it really doesn't do much. So yeah, I don't know really what they did to this radio, but like I say, I don't have time to really invest into this a whole lot. So I'm just going to clean up the low power again, and we're just going to call it what it is. Somebody did something to it. That whole self-oscillation thing, just it's in really bad shape. And personally, if it were me, I wouldn't waste time or money on this, sending it and having some, it's not a good enough radio to put a bunch of money into it. And I'll check and see if the limiter's up, but I mean, good lord, that's full on. So at least I can make it maybe a little more respectable here again. All right, let me look at the board really quick, see if I can see anything out of place. So this is what's the problem. This here, this is the AM modulation transistor, AM regulator, whatever you want to call it. Why on earth somebody would put all this black goop all over the board trying to hide some bogus mod? Number one, anybody with any sense of how the radio should work wouldn't do this. And then to try to hide it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Why would you think that you're doing something so fantastic? Well, you are, in the sense of people that just frankly don't know, and that's where I go back to what I was saying before. It's an absolute shame, but I'm not messing with that because I want no part of that. Like I say, unfortunately with this radio, you either run it just how it is, or find somebody that just frankly doesn't care. And I don't mean to say it like that, but there's a lot of guys that just flat out don't care and would probably like this radio, and then that would be something they would probably want to use. But I mean, this to me, all this goop and crap, yeah, it can be removed, and whatever this is that's bridged onto this regulator, some type of, if they're volting it or something, higher voltage or doing something to it, it's just a really bad thing to do. So yeah, that's part of our problem here, and that's probably why it self-oscillates when I plug in the microphone cord when I'm not even sending a tone in. So that's really bad too. But I mean, this radio would be somewhat respectable, I think, if it was just normal, because the DX86V and a lot of this board is identical to it, is a good sounding and good talking radio, and it's pretty clean on the output, and actually it's one of my favorite Galaxy radios from the newer style. The only one that I actually liked and somewhat could use on sideband pretty effectively and stuff for their 10 meter stuff. Now on CB, some of the other ones are really good too, but 979 and 949. I'm not a big fan of the 959. I don't like what they did with the blue and the other, because it's just not me. But I like the 949 because it's more basic, and I like the 979 too, the basic one, not the blue LED one, just the basic one before they changed it all. But yeah, this is definitely not good. So if you think that doing that is hiding some type of quality work, that you should be like hiding it from other people that call themselves radio technicians or whatever they want to call themselves, the fact of the matter is you might as well show it, because anybody with any sense, like what I would show here, this is not helping you at all. So the radio is about as good as it can be. It's kind of a freebie for a local buddy of mine anyway, so I just kind of wanted to show it. I figured there'd be something weird with it. Alright, so my closing thoughts on this are, it's a shame that somebody did that to the board. I don't care to dig into it anymore. With a 0.66 or half a watt carrier, we still swing quite a bit, so I think he's wanting to drive an amp or something, so this should drive it a little cleaner. I think at least it's not full on distortion. For that matter, when you go to the high power setting though, it pretty much unleashes itself. So that's it. Don't put the black goop on the board. Don't try to hide work that you shouldn't be proud of anyways. That's the moral of the video here.